right, welcome back to EchoVideo Podcast. This is episode 5. Thank you for listening. Joining me as always are my co-hosts Shawn and Bart. How's it going, guys?
Doing pretty good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good, like always.
All right. So today's episode, we're talking about... we're actually changing things up from movies. We're actually talking about video games today. It's been a while. I've been meaning to do this, but now we have the chance. And I think we're going to start it off with our favorite video games of all time. Again, very hard subject to start and even talk about. I mean, there's a lot of great games being released every single year. So it's obvious we're not going to have a favorite. Our favorites are always going to be changing, is what I'm saying. So this is our favorites as of today's date, which I believe is February 5th, 2021. So this is our favorite games, February 5th. So keep that in mind. If our games change, we may have to do another episode further in the future, but that's for another day. So guys, I'm going to start things off today. I'm going to talk about my first favorite game, and that's Persona 4. I'm a big fan of the Persona series. I remember I only started with Persona 5, and that kind of made me inspired to play the other ones in the series. So I played Persona 5, then I played Persona 4, which I was able to pick up somehow, and I just like Persona 4 a little bit better. I mean, it's a lot of the same mechanics. Persona 5 just kind of simplifies it and makes it a little neater, a little bit better of presentation. But Persona 4, in my opinion, had the better story and the better characters, and a little bit of the setting had an issue to do with that. In Persona 5, you're in a city the whole game. Persona 4, you're kind of in the countryside, off, isolated from the big city, which was kind of, I mean, I grew up basically in the countryside, small little town, which is basically why I connected to the game a little bit better. And I just like the characters a lot better. It's a pretty fun game. I mean, all the characters are memorable. Music is super fun. Story is great. The battle system is, at times it can be a bit repetitive, but for the most part, it's actually a ton of fun. And it's just fun to watch the game. This is kind of a compliment for the entire Persona series, but one of my favorite things about the game is that you're constantly going forward. There's never a time where you're stopping. The story's always moving, so it's kind of up to you to organize your time and decide what you're going to do the next day, because you can go into the dungeons and grind and get your levels high enough, but if you do that, you might miss out on talking to companions or building relationships with people in the world, which in turn help you make more powerful personas with level boosts, which is super fun because, you know, organizing your time doesn't sound fun at all, but when you're playing the game, it's a lot better because you're just like, it turns into situations where it's like, oh, you know, it's 10 o'clock. Okay, I'll play for an hour and then I'll go to bed. And then you look at the time and it's 4 a.m. because because you just are moving so quickly in the game at times, and you just have so much to do. There's always stuff to do. There's never a dull moment. So it's hard to kind of put the game down and decide when you're going to have a break. It's really fun. It's really addicting. And I just like the fourth one a little bit better for the story, although all the Persona games I think are really good. What are some of your thoughts on the games, guys?
I haven't played it. My only experience with it is playing as Joker in Smash Ultimate. So, I mean, I've seen you play it here
Fair
and there,
enough.
but I've never played it. I heard that Persona 5, especially Royale, it's been recommended to me a few times. So maybe it's time I give it a try.
Yeah.
But as of now, no experience with it yet.
So the company Atlas does something really kind of, in a way, it can be seen as kind of a cash grab, but in another way, it can be seen as just kind of improving. What they do is they'll re-release their old games. So there's, I believe, Persona 3 FES, Persona 4 Golden, and then Persona 5 Royal. There's also Catherine Full Body. Basically, they just re-released their older games with a slightly improved and more added features. So it's kind of a remake, but it's just kind of improving upon an older game. The only thing that kind of sucks is that they do sell the game for full price. So at that case, if Atlas ever releases a game like a Persona game, maybe wait a couple of years and get the updated version. Other than that, they're both, I mean, Golden, I didn't play Golden, I played the original Persona 4. It's a perfectly fine game. I've heard that 4 is also perfectly fine, but they just add a couple of features to make the game a little bit more modern in a sense. Shawn, what about you? What's your experience with Persona, if you've played it or if you haven't? I'd love to know.
I haven't. I've known of Persona for quite a while, but I've never ended up actually playing any of the Persona games. But however, I will say though, when Joker was added, I did know who Joker was. So there was that. I did know who he was. I was like, I think it's Persona, right? It took me a second, but I was like, yeah, I think that's Persona. I have played Catherine though.
I remember.
So there's that.
Catherine's a pretty good game, but I do remember when Joker was added to Smash. I remember it was pretty recently. I was just sitting on the couch and I thought it was like, I mean, whenever you see announcements, there's always a part of me that goes, is this real? And I clicked the video and I like literally got off the couch. I was like, no way. I was so hyped. It just didn't seem believable because Persona has been pretty well a PlayStation exclusive for the most part. And it was just something like it was just something so surreal, you know, like it almost didn't seem believable at first, but I was very happy to see that they did that, and hopefully the next Persona game ends up coming to Switch and more consoles in the end, because it's just a fun game. I think everybody should play it. Moving on, Bart, what's one of your favorite games?
All right, so I got Ori and the Blind Forest, and then its sequel, Ori and the Will of the Wisps. So I only started playing Ori earlier last year, maybe February or so. Will of the Wisps was released around the 20th or 18th or so of February, and I started playing the definitive edition of the Blind Forest late January or so. It's just because like quarantine basically was kind of just ramping up, and I had nothing to do and nothing was coming out. So I started playing it, and it is quite magnificent, I must say. I did not know what I was in for, because it was on sale for like $4 or so. And
nice.
For $4, oof.
Oh, jeez.
The amount of content you get, it is just such a stunning game. It's kind of like, to explain it, a Pixar movie. Just something so cute and like wholehearted.
You basically play as like Stitch.
Yeah.
You basically play as Stitch from Lilo and Stitch, pretty much.
Imagine that. And you got all your Pixar, milestones. You know, you got the sadness, you got the uplifting parts, you got the stunning animation, like absolutely stunning. And the score is just mesmerizing. Oh, yeah. Especially if like watch behind the scenes and the score and like how it's made and how they came up with it. It's really, really cool. And the cool thing about it is it's made by Moon Studios, and they're like a team of 15, 20 people, I'd say, which is really small. Jeez. And the cool thing is that they're all scattered all over the world, so they don't have like a headquarters. They're just all over, and they just send data in and kind of build it up as they go, which is really sweet.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I heard that like a while ago too. Just like I had only heard that was the case with their studio only a little while ago, and when I heard that, I was like, "That's insanely impressive." Like that game looks fantastic.
Yeah, especially with that, like looking fantastic. There's such a concise theme all across that everybody's just kind of on the same page while being in all different parts of the world. It's
and awesome. Just another thing. You just reminded me of just something one of my professors said when I was in school. Just Sean might know what I'm talking about, but the shorter the team, usually the better the project comes out to be, because everyone kind of has to work a little bit harder to get better. Where in the case of Cyberpunk, where it's this massive AAA game, stuff tends to get forgotten about and not looked at appropriately, and it ends up being very disappointing. And hopefully they end up fixing it, but
wink, wink,
it just goes to show that the smaller the team, the better the outcome. So shout out to the professor that told me that advice, because look at that, I ended up remembering it. Is that all you had to say on Ori and the Blind Forest, or did you have more?
So that was on its presentation. I want to talk about its gameplay a little bit. So
yeah, go for it.
So it's a Metroidvania, and you play as this little light spirit, like you said, kind of looks like Stitch, and you start off very vulnerable, and like any Metroidvania, just one or two abilities, and the more you get, the more of the world you unlock and whatnot. But the movement is so like precise and fluid that at first you feel super vulnerable and you die I gotta say, it's a very difficult game, but you die very quickly. But as soon as you get used to the movement, especially with this ability called like the dash ability, where I think if you hold like left bumper or something, you can like kind of cling on to projectiles or enemies and fling yourself in the opposite direction, and then fling the opponent. You kind of like split apart, basically. Does that make sense? But anyway, it propels you somewhere, and it really puts a unique twist on the movement. And given that it's so precise and fluid, that once you master that, it's such a, I don't know, fun experience. You feel so skillful and
yeah, for sure. And
awesome.
I find a lot of platformers, especially modern ones, tend to do that. Like Mario Odyssey. I mean, that was more based on adventure, but that game was basically the more precise. Like, if you went and took your time and learned the movements, you were actually rewarded for learning and exploring the levels. The same thing with another more recent game, Celeste, which I think was kind of a sleeper hit of the. I can't remember what year it was announced, but I remember that game being it was super fun, and I had a really fun time enjoying it. But then you got to the B-side levels, and then you really questioned the will to live, because that game gets increasingly hard on the B-side, where literally the original had a little bit of room for mistakes. In the B-side, you had zero room for mistakes. Every move had to be perfect. It and that's just kind of the thing where like you said, per platforming games, I think is a lesser known, like is a lesser played genre out of gaming for sure. I mean, I feel like first person and third person open world games are kind of taking over the gaming industry right now, which isn't a bad thing by no means, but I feel like platforming is it's a genre that has it rewards the players. You know, it's a rewarding genre if you take the time to master it.
Yeah. Well, what you said is absolutely right, because I'm typically like open world, first person, third person, like AAA games, and it was only because there was such a, I don't know, slump, whatever, in game development or releases that I tried this out, and it really just took me by surprise. And one last thing I want to say about the music, it's kind of got like a hint of Howard Shore's like Lord of the Rings theme, where it's very cinematic. Like, it'll just slowly swell up as action goes, and you get to that awesome score. Same thing happens in Ori. Like, I think it's kind of dynamic with the movement. Like, if you do really well, it kind of continuously swells up. So, like, the more you move and faster and more precise, whatnot,
makes
it's
sense.
so satisfying, and it feels so cool.
All right. The last thing I want to say is it's an Xbox Game Studios produced game, and I just really, if anyone's played it on Switch, does the Xbox Game Studios logo pop up when you play the game on Switch? I really want to know. I haven't played it on Switch. I just want to know if that happens or if they kind of minimized it or something. Other than that, Sean, have you played it on Switch, or are you playing it on Xbox, or are you even playing it at all?
I haven't played it yet. I just before we started, I asked Bart not to say any spoilers, because I'm planning to play it in the future. I don't want to hear anything about that. But you've advertised it well to me, and I want to play it more than I did. So
you got to check it out.
For sure.
All right. So if anyone's played it on Switch, please let me know. I really am curious if the Xbox Game Studios shows up is as explosive as it does when you're playing it on Xbox. Other than that,
it's just like tiny
Sean,
in the corner or something.
Oh yeah, probably just like it's hidden very,
this
or it's
may
like
have
1
been
second.
developed by Microsoft.
It's just flat. It's just like half a frame, just boom, and then it's into the game. Because I remember, just as sidetrack, I remember when the when they released on Switch like a huge deluxe edition of it, where you got like a steel book and you got both games, and I remember they did this whole epic trailer in a Nintendo Direct, and then at the end, in the very tiny in the corner, you could just see Xbox Game Studios. And I was like, "What are they hiding?" It was just something I laughed at. Anyways, sorry. Moving on. Sean, what was your game you brought? What was one of your games?
Well, I guess to start off, a bit of a turn from Ori, but I have Team Fortress 2. Bit of an older game now too. It doesn't feel as old as it is. It's like 2007. But the only reason I really talk about it is because I've played it a ton throughout the time that it's existed. I originally, I kind of have a bit of an interesting story with TF2. For those who don't know what it is, it's just like a first-person kind of online shooter game. It's, you know, it's pretty standard now. At the time, it was a little less standard, but it's, you know, you've seen something like Overwatch. It's similar to that, you know, cartoony kind of style. It's by Valve, same people who did Half-Life and Portal and all that. So the first time I heard about this game was in, I think, 2010, because at the time I had a Mac. That was my main PC, or not PC, I guess Mac. But they announced the Orange Box, which is Valve's kind of collection of games. They have Half-Life and Half-Life 2. Portal was on that, which that's when it came out. It came out with that. And TF2 was part of it, and I'd never heard of it before. So I got that, and I was like, you know, I mostly got that for Half-Life and Portal, but I was like, I gotta check this game out. What is this game? So I did, and I was a stupid youngin' at the time, so I had no idea what it was. I think I joined, I kind of remember what I did. I think I immediately joined like an empty server with nobody on it, and it was like a payload map, so I just pushed it was basically a cart from the start to the end, and you have to do that. The other team has to try to stop you. But because there's nobody on there, I just pushed it all the way to the end, and I won. And I was like, oh, wow, that's fantastic. I'm so good at this game. But I was like, that's kind of stupid. So I didn't play it until like 2 years later. But, well, okay. So I played it about 2 years later. I was originally into playing a lot of Minecraft. I had some friends through there, and they're like, hey, you should play this game TF2. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I do have that. I played that before. So I played it then, and I actually played it seriously then. And that's when the mode Man vs. Machine came out for that game, which is like a kind of a horde wave mode. And that was kind of the first thing I played, and then I got into the main game, and then I played it for years since then. I made tons of friends on it. Spent a little too much money on it, probably. And yeah, but it's funny because the only reason I really ended up making the friends I did is because I played it in 2010 when it came out on Mac initially. They had some item promotion that was like, oh, if you play it on Mac, we'll give you like these little like earbuds for your character or whatever. So I joined later, and it's the only item I have. Go figure, it's one of the most rarest items in the game. And it's like a coveted item, and I'm like, I have nothing but these earbuds. So people were looking at me like, why does this person have this one item? And so I met like some higher up people in like the item community pretty early on, because they were like, I want that. So I guess that's partially why I got into it, but I just ended up enjoying the game. I learned how to make like maps for the game because I wanted to do that. And it's, I don't know, it's just something that I got into. Like it's weird because it's a game that the game itself is fun, but the community around it is like so much wider, and I think that's the main appeal for me for the game. I don't know. I know this whole talk about the game right now is taking turns, but it's just a game I played for a long time, so there's so many sides to it. But if I had to generalize it, that's the best I can really do.
In all fairness, I haven't played Team Fortress 2, and to be totally honest, I've never really been fully interested in playing it. It just didn't seem like my thing. And the only times I've ever really known, the only times I've been exposed to Team Fortress 2 was the first time there's this YouTube video that I watched when I was like 10 called The Idiots of Gary's Mod.
Yeah.
I don't think I was 10. I might have been like, I was super young when I saw it. Mm-hmm. And I just remember it was just the dumbest thing that I have never laughed so hard at a YouTube video. And I was like you're just on the floor pissing yourself with laughter because this cat is like distorting itself it's the dumbest video ever. It's like but it's so funny. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. Like you probably will hate it, but it was so funny at the time. And I've never laughed as hard as I had, and someone told me like, oh, that's from the game Team Fortress 2, and I was like, oh man, no way. The other experience I had was, I remember there was like a legitimate strategy in the game, because I think you can spray paint your emblem as a character. Like you can spray paint your custom emblem on the wall, and then it was a strategy to just grab some naked woman or something, some kind of pornographic image, and spray paint it on the wall. And then people would run by and look at it, and then you would be like hiding, and then as soon as they stop to stare, you just kill them, and then you'd get a point because it was just so, it was like, that's a legitimate strategy. That was so funny to me for some reason.
I had a friend of mine that did that.
I mean, if it works, right?
Yeah, it worked.
That's like the only.
It worked way more than it should have. It's hilarious.
Think they'd learn after times, but
it kind of reminds
that was like
me.
the.
I was gonna say, it kind of reminds me of like Metal Gear Solid 5: Phantom Pain, where you get in a box and you can put up like the pinups of girls on the boxes.
Yep.
And if you stand up in the girl in the fucking box, the guards will stop and look at you and like swoon in amazement, and you can kill them.
I remember when I was a kid. Not when I was a kid, but when I first played Mafia 2, I remember one of the items, the collectibles, was Playboy magazines, and because I was like the most fucking idiot teenager, I decided, I'm gonna collect them all to see all the naked chicks, because you can look at like 3 pages from the actual magazine from like what I don't know, remember what the year the game was set, but it was like, I want to say 50s, 40s maybe for Mafia 2, and I was like, oh, awesome, I did it. And it's like, I mean, it got me to collect the to get some of the collectibles, but that's like, but yeah, it's just something stupid, but. No, I do remember that happening.
Did you get to see the naked girls though? That is the question.
Oh, yeah, they didn't censor it. And there was there's some cool interviews because I remember in Mafia 3 they had an interview. There was one magazine that had a full interview with Stanley Kubrick about 2001: A Space Odyssey. And I legitimately read it's like 10 pages. Like, it's a huge interview. And it was like, why is this here? And I read the whole thing. And I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever. Like, it's kind of like, I mean, as dumb as it sounds, but it's kind of keeping history. Like, I feel like, I mean, that magazines don't last forever. I know they probably have that shit recorded on, like documents for at the, whatever, the Playboy Mansion or whatever, but.
Like,
it's just kind of a cool thing
in the game.
Oh yeah, it's
cool.
kind of cool that it's just permanently now in the game, right? So I found that to be kind of cool. Anyways, did anyone any last notes on Team Fortress 2 or stuff that reminded them of Team Fortress 2?
I've never played it. I've never even played any Valve game for that matter. I know of it from I think same as Hunter, like watching meme videos, YouTube videos when I was 10, 11. I saw them come up. I didn't know they were associated with Team Fortress until now. But no experience with it, but it sounds pretty fun from what you were telling me.
The things it's done for memes is just super widespread. I think that is bigger than the game itself for sure. I just see it everywhere. Probably. It's amazing.
All right. I guess okay, the next game I'm going to talk about, it's kind of a it's an important game to me, which is why it's my favorite, and that's Halo Reach. Everyone's heard of this game, I'm pretty sure. If you haven't even played it, I'm sure you've heard of it. This was one of the games I was most excited for. This is the first game I remember being hyped about, because when I was a kid, video games in my house was really, really strict. I mean, we didn't get, the first game console we ever got was a Wii, and that was really close when it got launched. And even then, we were only allowed games that were, sport-related until eventually we convinced our parents to get Super Mario Galaxy because you shook the Wii remote and that was exercise. I swear to God.
I used the exact same tactics for Wii Sport.
we were allowed to get Wii Sports, and we got Wii Play. But other than that, we weren't allowed to get a lot of the games because we weren't allowed video games for the longest time. And I remember my brother got an Xbox, and he got Halo 2 with the Xbox, and that was the only game he had. And we had a portable VHS player that had the AV cable input, and I swear to God, this screen was literally the tiniest screen. It was ridiculous. And we played split screen Halo. Like, it was literally, I can't even, like, it was just imagine your phone screen. Imagine your phone screen. That was what we played split screen 4-player Halo on, because we didn't have a TV to play it on. We played Halo 2 on that thing for hours. And I remember loving Halo so much because that was one of the only games that wasn't a fucking motion-controlled garbage game that we were allowed to play. Yeah. Not saying Mario Galaxy is garbage, but just the other games we had, like Off-Road Extreme Racers. Like, those games sucked. And I remember finally Halo Reach got announced, and somehow my brother was able to get an Xbox 360, and he got Halo Reach from a friend. And I remember playing that game for so long, just the split screen, the story was fantastic. I remember it being like the first game story where I honestly felt really sad for the remaining month that I beat it. I was like so physically upset by it. And I like the final, just spoilers for the game, but the final objective you get is just literally survive. And then your visor starts breaking, and it's just so heartbreaking. And then you die eventually. Your whole team dies. It's a great story. The music is fantastic, and honestly, for being a game that was released in 2010, playing it pretty recently, it looks fantastic. Like, it honestly holds up, in my opinion, which is super rare because I'll play like games that look awful that I thought looked groundbreaking back then. But I have to say, Halo Reach holds up. I would say it the frame rate and everything, especially if you play it kind of with the updated frame rates, it 100% holds up. Like, it doesn't look bad at any points, I would say. You definitely will feel the kind of the limitations of that the 360 had, but it doesn't look awful at any point. But it is a great game. Again, that's like just being the first game I remember being hyped for, because I was like a pretty big Halo player at the time, and I remember, it's a prequel, and I was just so excited for it, and I just wasn't even. I mean, if the game sucked, I probably wouldn't have even been let down by it, because I mean, what other video games did I play? Like fucking Off-Road Truckers, I found fun, so I wouldn't have probably been that disappointed if the game was bad, but it was the best game. Because you could like armor lock and stuff. I have a few other points to make, but I'd love to hear what you guys have to say before I get into those. What do you guys have to say about the game?
Yeah, I would love to keep talking about Halo. I just kind of going off the Wii thing you were talking about. My house was the exact same way. So I used the same tactics as you did. So I got a Wii for my birthday, maybe grade 8 or something when I was, I don't know, what are you in grade 8, 13? 14 maybe, I don't know, it doesn't matter. But I had to convince my parents that, you had the motion controls, you had to be standing up, basically jogging and running the whole time. And they finally got me Epic Mickey, which was awesome, with
yeah, Oswald, the first ever Oswald the Lucky Rabbit appearance in a Disney licensed product.
Who would have thought he made an appearance? But then Hunter, I didn't have any other consoles, and I think I went to your place, and I saw somewhere in a box that you had Call of Duty Black Ops for the Wii.
I fucking knew you took that copy, because I remember having that, and I remember it being gone.
Confession
and then
time.
I remember you talking about playing it, and I was like, why the hell did you just get this game? There's no way you were able to get it.
No, because my parents would not have allowed me.
We met when Black Ops was already like 3 years old. So there's no way he bought the Nintendo Wii copy of Black Ops. I was like, I figured you took it, but we had it on the 360, so I didn't really care.
No, the Wii version was, like, the Xbox was infinitely superior in every way. But I remember that was the only access I had to like mature, fun shooting games. And I remember even going to like the local hawk shop to buy that little, like the Wii holder, like the little gun.
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about? The zapper, exactly.
Yeah,
I was like playing around with that, and it was awful. I didn't have online, so I was just playing custom matches. Land was awful.
Oh my
but
God.
That's my introduction to Call of Duty, which just reminded me what you were talking about with the Wii. Just Oh,
Yeah, for
timeless.
sure.
But yeah, small
Moving-
digression. What about you, Sean? Anything on Halo?
I don't have a huge amount on Halo because for me, I was mostly my family was like 90% Nintendo, and then if anything deviated from that, it was like maybe some Sony PlayStation stuff. So like we had an Xbox, but like for the most part, we only really had like kind of like family-ish games, and maybe like a couple of the Splinter Cell games. I never ended up really playing them at that time. I played them now, but so I mean, I don't have too much on Halo. I did play like a tiny bit of Halo later, like probably like start of high school maybe, and it might have been Reach. I don't know what it was, but I don't remember it very well.
Fair
I
enough.
just remember like some friend had a copy of it, and I played a tiny bit of it. But that's like about my exposure, at least to playing it.
That's like-
I know of Halo. Obviously, it's kind of impossible not to know of Halo.
That
But that's about it.
that's like the funniest part I find is that just how powerful Halo is as a franchise. Like all the Xbox exclusives, there's maybe like 4. And Halo manages to be still to this day, Halo's 1, 2, 3, and Reach, especially Reach, managed to be talked about the most out of any, like, and I mean, I might be wrong, but out of any exclusive, PlayStation included and Nintendo, I find that Halo Reach is quite possibly the most talked about exclusive. Maybe not Nintendo, but out of PlayStation and Xbox, I find Halo has lived, even with 5 not being a perfect game. Even with 5 being kind of a dud, I still find that even the older Halos have still lived quite a bit longer than I feel most exclusives have lived in a long time. Which just kind of shows the power of the franchise and just how much it's willing to live. So fingers crossed for Halo Infinite. Hopefully it's good. I'm super hyped for that.
Me too.
There's a lot riding in its failure. I mean, there's probably tons of other videos that can explain better than me why it should be something to be concerned about. So fingers crossed, Halo Infinite is good. The last note I want to make on Halo Infinite is the online Forge mode, and I know this wasn't introduced in Halo Reach. Again, this was one of the only Halo games I really played, and this was where I was introduced to Forge mode. I remember this game mode, and it's just stuck in my head as being the most fun I've ever had online for a long time when I was a kid. It was called Santa Slayer. Basically, everyone spawned into a little house, and it was just a 4x4 room, and you had one weapon, which was the signal beam, I believe, which everyone nicknamed the Santa signal. And then someone spawned as Santa, and they had an energy sword, and basically they jump into your house down the chimney because that's the only access you have into your house. So you can't escape your house if you spawn as a kid. All you have is the Santa signal that you shoot straight up through the chimney to summon Santa. He jumps down, he tries to kill you. I remember laughing because it was horrifying. Like you couldn't see Santa coming. You would just immediately see this red elite drop down into your home and then try to kill you with an energy sword, and you're just freaking out, trying to run away and kill him with the signal beam. And it was so hilarious and so much fun. I remember having the absolute most the most fun time playing that, and it was like the dumbest map ever. Like it was so stupid, but it was so much fun. It was so fun to play. And I just remember Forge mode especially, even if it was just like everyone just clowned on Forge mode. Like there was just the most clown ass maps of all time. And sorry, Bart, go ahead. What do you have to say?
Oh no, I just wanted you to keep going to like a new topic. I just wanted to make sure that I got like Firefight in there. I think Firefight is kind of like my experience that you had with Forge. Because like I said, I didn't have many video games at home, and if I did have them, they were like, I don't know, bowling or bingo or whatnot. So I went to like my friend's house.
Chegger's Party Quiz on Nintendo Wii.
Fucking Clue, shit like that. But yeah, I went to my buddy's house. I don't know, I think every Saturday or so, because we were pretty close back in grade 8 or so. And he had Halo Reach and he had an Xbox and whatnot. and we would just play firefight until like 3-4 in the morning or so, pull all-nighters or whatnot. Sipping our Mountain Dew, got our Doritos there. It was incredible. It was a time I will always cherish.
Oh yeah, man, that's the best time to be alive.
That's incredible.
Gaming all
Split
night
screen.
long with nothing but Mountain Dew and Doritos,
and nothing to worry about. That's the best thing. If I game now until 4 in the morning, I'm like, oh, I got an exam tomorrow.
Yeah,
like that kind of stuff.
No, yeah, you're totally right about firefight. It was a good distraction because a lot of games I find, especially single player games, not that it's a flaw, I would say, but there's really, once you beat the story, especially as not like calling out The Last of Us, there's really not much to do after you beat the story. It's just kind of, you play the story and then what do? Play it again, which is fine, but
you know the story already.
Yeah, you know the story already.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to try to take a different route if I know the route worked the first time. Once you get the platinum trophy on The Last of Us or other single player games, not just specifically calling out that game, but like other story based games, there's really nothing much to do. Where Firefight, it was just a little something extra. It was different from the online. You could have fun and it was just, yeah, like you said, it was just a ton of fun to play with friends. So anyways, to not linger on Halo Reach, I mean, if anyone had any last moments, feel free to say them now. Other than that, we'll move on. Bart, what's the next game? What's your next favorite game you want to talk about today?
All right, well, talking about replayability, I got Dark Souls 3. So my very first introduction to Dark Souls was grade 10, 11 maybe, perhaps. Dark Souls 1 was free on the Xbox store, like with the subscription and whatnot. So I downloaded it, got to the Asylum Demon, turned it off because it was unbeatable, and I hated it. And then, I don't know, I think grade 11, maybe 12 or so, Dark Souls 3 came out, and I kind of recognized it because, I still had that memory of playing Dark Souls, but not really. I played for like 10 minutes or so, but I just saw Dark Souls 3 was on release, and I saw, and I just pre-ordered it because my philosophy was like, it's free, I didn't like it, I could just drop it, but if I spend $80 on it, then I have to keep playing because I spent $80 on it. So that was my philosophy. So I picked up Dark Souls 3, and that was my first introduction properly to Dark Souls. And my God, what an introduction it was. It absolutely beat me over and bent me over at that. It was not kind to me because I did not know what to expect, because I thought maybe I was just terrible at video games and that Dark Souls wasn't that bad, but I just didn't know what I was doing. But it is just very punishing. And I remember really feeling that when I got to the Abyss Watchers, which is a fight with you and like a humanoid character with like a massive sword. You're just fighting him, and then the second one drops in, and you're like, uh-oh. And you have to fight both of them, and all of a sudden the third one drops in, and you're like, uh-oh.
No. Is that Dark Souls 3 or is that Dark Souls 1?
Dark Souls 3.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
you're good. Sorry, I was.
That Dark Souls 3. Sorry. But then like the third one drops and they start infighting. So it's kind of like a twist on it. So we're like two are basically attacking you, but they're also fighting each other. And at the same time, this epic score is swelling, and then you finally manage to kill him, and you're like, awesome. But then, you don't get the achievement, and you're like, what is happening? And then a little cutscene triggers, and he just rises up again and summons the power from everybody else, and you got to fight him like 1-on-1. But basically, it's like 1-on-10 because he's got like, his power boosted and whatnot. And I got my ass kicked like 50 times. But the first time I died, I was like, oh my God. So you spawn back at the bonfire. You got to walk all the way back up. And I thought, they'd be kind to you and you would just spawn after the cutscene. But you got to do the entire thing over again.
Oh my God.
And oh my God. So that was like the first like big roadblock for me to get past, which I eventually did after like a full weekend of just tears and pain and anger. And yeah, but after that, like every boss fight, every area, there's so much satisfaction in overcoming it, and getting past such a challenge, and you just feel so great, even if you get beaten down, and it's empowering. But in the end, it's so somber, and then kind of just like, it's a very cyclical game, so you beat it, basically it just immediately restarts the narrative,
Nice.
which is actually really well written, but you just want to keep going and replay it in a different way. So it's, that's just why I love Dark Souls. Have you guys played it?
I mean, me personally, I haven't really gotten into Dark Souls, and I mean, the only game, the only From Software game I could really get into was Sekiro. And just a sidetrack on that, like you said, I would assume it's similar. I mean, definitely not how it plays, because I found it, honestly, once you got to learn it, I found it to be a little bit kind of easy. Because it's basically a rhythm game. Like if you can find out the patterns and stuff, you're golden, you're money. The other thing I remember playing that game, just again to sidetrack, was the owl, Father Owl or whatever. You fight the main character's father. I think his name's Great Owl or something. And while you do that fight, I remember watching. I kept losing, and I watched a YouTube video, and the guy kept saying, "You got to roll past these. You got to roll. You can't block in this whole fight." And I was like, I kept rolling, and I kept dying. Because if he breaks your posture, you die
it's
instantly.
Over.
He can instantly kill you. So he just kept saying, you gotta roll, and the rolling timing is so awful. I was just like, fuck this YouTuber. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And I just started blocking, and I beat the fight first try when I started blocking. And I was like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? So either I'm really good at the game, which is impossible, or this guy's just wrong. So I was like, oh my God, maybe you got lucky like once with the rolling, but I think that fight is mainly about just perfectly timing your blocks. I don't know. I'm not a master at the game. Do whatever suits your fancy, but that's
Hunter,
the only kind of experience I've had with From Software.
I think that if you're talking Sekiro, you should talk about your experience with what's his name?
The Demon of Hatred.
Demon of Hatred.
Oh
just
my
tell
God.
that little story. That was a
when
good
I
one.
played, I legitimately got stuck on that boss fight. I was like, I played the game, and I won't lie. I mean, I died at like every boss fight. There wasn't a boss fight I cleanly beat. I'm not good at that game. I'm not going to say I'm fantastic, but I did do it, and I felt really good of how I was playing. And then I got to that boss, and that's the boss where you kind of can't parry a lot of stuff.
It turns the whole thing up on its head.
It's more of a Dark Souls boss where you have to learn to roll and the attacks and the movement and stuff. So then I was like, uh-oh. And I could not beat that boss for the life of me. I remember when I beat the first stance, I was like, oh my God, I finally beat it, but I have 2 more phases to do, and you do such little damage. And then, like, I remember when I beat the second stance, and there was a brief moment where I thought I could do it, and I just kept dying and dying and dying. And it was like, in school, I was in film school, we had a really early shoot with a project with a buddy who will probably be on a podcast eventually, but we had a really early shoot, and I just decided I'm going to pop the game in, I'm going to play, I have time. I think I woke up at super, super early, and I had like 2 hours to kill, so I thought I'm just going to just train, basically, learn the attacks, learn the patterns. Even if I lose, I don't really care about winning. So I played the game, and really early in the morning, I'm at the final stage, and I'm half health. Like, he's half health. I have maybe 1 or 2 healing gourds left, and I'm like, oh my God, I might be able to do this. I use those really quickly. I'm at my last hit. Like, I'm almost dead. The boss is almost dead. I'm like freaking out. I have to leave to go do this thing. I'm like yelling at people to hold on. I'm coming. I got to do this. And then somehow I beat the boss in time. And I legitimately got up and just started screaming. I was so happy. Like, it took me like a full week to beat this boss. And I finally did it. And for the entire day, I had this like adrenaline high that I was the most confident, awesome man that ever existed. Like, I was like, I can do anything. Like if there was a hostage situation, I could negotiate the hostage out of the situation with 1 word, probably. I was so confident in myself, which just goes to show how good these games are. When you finally beat the boss, you get like this rush, especially if it's a super hard boss that you've been stuck on. Like you get this kind of this confidence that, I mean, I fucking was so happy that whole day, but that's the only thing I'll say.
I remember you like periodically texting me throughout that week, just like little statements about how much you hated the boss, and he was just ruining your life for like 7 days straight.
God. Yeah, it was awful, dude. I did not think I'd be able to do it for the whole week. I thought that was the end of the game. I was like, that's it. I'm going to stop playing, and I beat it. And I was so happy. But no, that's the one experience. That's the one time, like the one game of From Software I played really. What about you, Sean? What about your experience with Dark Souls 3 and or From Software?
See, I partially have to, and not that I think that Dark Souls is terrible by any means, because I don't. I think it's fine. But I kind of have to blame Dark Souls a little bit, at least from my experience that I had. It kind of soured a lot of those games for me. Because when I first played Dark Souls, I kind of knew about it. I don't know, and here's the thing, I don't know if it was Dark Souls 2 or 3. It might have been 2, it might have been 3. I don't remember. I was at a party in high school in like 11th grade, and I didn't go to very many parties in high school, but the one that I did, I was like, okay, let's go. It's just a few of my friends that I'm close with. It's like a small little thing. They decided to put on Dark Souls pretty much at like the start of the party or whatever. And they're like, oh, I'm just going to start a new game or whatever. Party. Yeah, I know. And it's like, oh, let's just put on Dark Souls or whatever. I'm just going to start a new game. And then they immediately hand the controller to me to play it. I'm like, what? I've never played this. And it's like, it's fine. You'll do fine. And I'm like, okay. And so like I get to like the first boss and I'm like, I don't know what the hell to do. I haven't done anything in this game before. And like I'm dying over and over again trying to figure it out. And I'm like, okay. And like I essentially, it was like the worst experience to have, because it's like I'm trying to figure it out, but I have all these people like over me, like just trying to be like, come on, how could you not beat it yet? And it's like
the backseat gamers, my favorite.
Exactly, like 5 backseat gamers just behind me, like, come on, you have to beat it. And it's like, yeah, I know, I'm getting to it, shut up. I think I eventually did. But oh my god, it did not give me the desire to play another Dark Souls game by any means, because it's just like...
Do you remember what the boss was?
No, vaguely? I don't. I think it was something in like a very rounded kind of area.
Like, was it open?
It was, I think like the one side was open, the other side had a wall on it. I think it was kind of like on the edge of like a cliff or something.
Yeah, okay. So Dark Souls 3. You were fighting my boy Index Gundyr or something like that.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
The one he kind of like transforms into like this massive,
like, isn't that the first boss? That's the first boss.
I'm pretty sure they started a new game.
He becomes like this hairy blob or something.
Where it turns into number one Redditor with giant jerk off arm halfway through the fight.
Yeah.
And you're like, this isn't even my final form.
This is the first fight?
Yeah. Having
that was my same reaction.
No experience with Dark Souls either. It's just like, that's the first thing that I'm exposed to. It's just like, oh, all right, yeah, sure.
It's just chaos.
Yeah, for sure.
I could see how that soured the experience a bit.
Yeah.
Also, never went to a party again after that.
Like backseat gaming. Backseat gaming, though, man, that's like one of my biggest pet peeves of all time.
Oh, it's enraging.
Yeah.
Like I hate being the person in the backseat. I mean, I get it. Watching somebody solve a puzzle you've already solved is the most frustrating thing ever.
Yeah.
But like, people want to at least have the satisfaction of beating and or solving a puzzle the same thing you did probably a week and or month ahead of time. You just gotta like, because that's like when I played Dark Souls 3, I remember I played it with an old buddy back in high school. I won't use his name just for privacy sakes, but he basically the whole time was just telling me what to do, and I was just like, I can't do this.
I wonder who that could be.
No, it wasn't you, dude.
No, I know. But
oh, okay. I think you know who it is.
Yeah.
But anyways, no. So it's Dark Souls. I mean, I haven't played it, but like Bart says, and the way he talks about it, I've heard multiple people, friends of his, just say how, and friends of mine that just say how great a game it is. So it's probably 100% worth it to learn it and play it. So any final notes we have on Dark Souls or any From Software games? Because I mean they're all pretty well perfect, I would say, or as close to as consistently as good as you can get gaming wise, especially nowadays.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. No, I think I don't know. I mean, at least I have. I've said what I wanted to say without spoiling too much.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean,
the only thing. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, I think even though I said that it soured it for me a little bit, since then I haven't tried to like play a Dark Souls game since then. So it's one of those things that I probably should just at least try it, just to see, because I feel like it would be a fun experience. I just kind of ignored it because of that reason.
For sure.
Pave over the bad experience. Start a new one.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd recommend playing Sekiro because I thoroughly enjoyed that game. Is the other thing I just have to say about Sekiro, the Great Ape fight, not as hard as I thought it would be. I won't spoil anything because I mean I had this fight spoiled for me way in advance. Without spoiling anything, it's hard at first, and then it gets a bit easier. It gets a bit easier. That's all I'll say. I won't spoil anything just because I know
when there's two apes.
Exciting. I didn't find that hard either.
No?
I honestly thought that once you get in the proper position and you know what to do, you can easily get them taken care of. But
I think I had more trouble with the two than the one, but I was stuck on the one the two for quite some time.
I found the monkey with the two swords even harder. the tool. I hated that thing for like a month.
Dude, he could just one hit you if you weren't careful. If you were like in mid dodge, because I think it doubles
everything
damage. I know. Oh.
And he blocked everything. And also the poo-poo attack is it does so much damage. It does an unreasonable amount of damage.
And it like poisons you on the spot.
And it's like, wow.
Awesome.
Okay, I guess I'll die. Other than that, that's the last thing I have to say on any From Software and Dark Souls games. Is that I heard from you, Bart. Shawn, is that the last thing you have to say, or any other notes?
Yeah, no, I think I'm good.
All right, we'll move on to your next game there, Shawn. What's the second game you brought?
So I was going to talk about the series in general, but I think more specifically, because I think it's interesting to talk about, I was going to talk about the Batman Arkham series, specifically Batman Arkham Knight. Because I know that for some people, the Batman Arkham Asylum and Batman Arkham City were both very popular, critically acclaimed games. They definitely, the combat system in it was really, really unique and really well done, all that kind of stuff. When Arkham Knight came out, people did not like it so much, and I feel like that kind of sucks, considering that a lot of the reasons I see for that is things like, or two things mainly, and it's one being that the PC port that came out was god awful, and people thought there was too much Batmobile.
I remember that.
But that's like all I see with people's complaints of it. When I think about it, and my first experience playing it, unfortunately I did play it on PC, so I did have that kind of crappy experience initially. But I mean, I gave it a pass. I was like, no, I just want to play the game. I'll power through it. But the rest of the actual game's story and like gameplay was the best it had been. Like, they still innovated on that very well, and all of that kind of stuff that they did, I think, was still, they achieved their goal, in my opinion, of making the game bigger and better than it was. And I think it was fantastic.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. I definitely remember playing this game. I remember when it was released. I mean, I didn't have next gen at the time. I think it was one of, like, I would say one of one of the first next gen games to kind of own and have. I didn't have next gen at the time. I remember my brother playing it and Bart playing it for the first time, but it was definitely like a super like because I played Arkham Asylum and I thought Arkham Asylum was probably one of the highlights of the series. It was a ton of fun, great story. I mean, I will say that literally pressing the Y button wins the game, but honestly, I mean,
it's true.
It was one of the best licensed games that came out at the time. And it had a great story, and it even had a lot of the voices from the original animated series, like Mark Hamill as the Joker, Kevin Conroy. So I mean, even if you weren't in it for the gameplay, you're in it for the story or the Batman. Like if you're a Batman fan and you didn't enjoy this game, I don't know what to say, but if you like it was just a great Batman story. It was a fun game. It was cinematic. It had a lot of great moments. I do remember Arkham Knight remember the one thing I remember about this game, and I mean, spoilers ahead. If you don't want anything of this game spoiled, I mean, the game's 10 years old, 9 years old. Leave the video now.
10 years old?
If not,
yeah, it's like not 10 years old.
When did it come
Night
out?
or City?
I said
Night. And it's not 10 years old. What is Night? When did
Night is
come
like
out?
4 years old.
5 years? Okay. Well,
Yeah. Okay.
I was 5 years off. Whatever. I do remember. Yeah, no, 2017. Yeah, you're right. I forgot the fucking year, but I remember. The one thing I remember of this game is when you zip line to a certain building. You just immediately get jump scared by Man-Bat, and it's like, oh, I didn't need my heart, thanks, game. Like, it's just a giant middle finger, like it comes out of nowhere, and it's so horrifying. It was honestly, when that happened, I legitimately needed to go change my pants. I was so scared. I was like, I didn't want to shit my pants today, but thanks anyway.
It sets the ziplining up as like such an epic and safe moment, and then it just takes you out of it with that scare. I remember seeing it like 2 a.m. or so. I was scared to cry. I think I audibly screamed. I think I probably woke up my dad, who just came back into my room and turned off my Xbox after that. But oof, it just betrays you.
It's a bit ironic
other than
too.
That, I mean,
I was just gonna say it's a bit ironic that the game is like the main villain of it is Scarecrow, yet the scariest moment is not a Scarecrow moment.
It's the reverse Batman.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, dude. That part got me, but I definitely remember, like, I will agree, the Batmobile, I mean, not to sound like too much water, but I mean, it was used a little more than I would have liked. But I mean, the Batmobile was still fun to use. It had some really nice it controlled nice. It was fun to kind of zip around the city and drift it and stuff. That was fun. That's I mean, I remember my favorite game of the series was Arkham Asylum, I would say. And again, that was one of the first games I played. I didn't play Arkham Asylum, which I really wanted to. And I played Arkham, what was the one between?
Origins?
Origins. I played a bit of that, and it was interesting. It's definitely not as bad. I've heard people say it was not good at all, but it's not as bad. It's worth checking out, I would say. It's definitely fun.
It's entertaining for sure. The boss fights are cool.
It's pretty much just salty people because it's not developed by Rocksteady. But it's actually really good.
Honestly, I'm sure with every game today, we'll have somebody that says all the games are bad. Like I know the Persona series people hate. And honestly, I mean, I know some people, not going to name any names, but I know one person in particular that it just hates everything that's popular. I mean, the game is popular, yes, but there's a reason for that. And the same with Dark Souls, and the same with this series, and probably the same with Halo, and the same with any other series we're most likely going to talk about. They're all going to be well-liked. Like, if that's a reason for you not to play a game, that's kind of on you. I don't want to cast any ill shadows or ill will on anybody, but give it a shot. Don't hate it because it's popular. I'm the same way sometimes. but don't hate anything because it's popular. And I'm sure that's where a lot of hate comes from for the games, especially for the Persona series, and most likely for the Arkham series, like you said with Arkham Knight. That's just a little PSA, public service announcement. Don't hate stuff because it's popular. Hate stuff. If you hate it and you've played it, I don't care. That's a fair reason, and go for it. Hate it all you want. If you hate it because you haven't played it and because other people say it,
yeah, bandwagoning.
Your opinion, your opinion literally means nothing to me, and I know it's hypocritical because I am one of those people that do that. I did it with Last of Us 2, and I hate myself for doing that. But think about that next time you play a game. Anyways, back to Arkham. Back to the Arkham series. Sorry, if just chime in if you have any notes to say there about the Arkham series.
Yeah, I could chat about it a bit. So I picked it up on pre-order back when it was released. So I guess 2017 is what we established. I, for one, actually really loved the Batmobile, and I just was constantly seeking it out because I adored the combat in it. So I guess I'm one of the 1% who enjoy the Batmobile. But yeah, so whenever people complain about that, I don't know. Like, it's really not that bad. Like, it's in there a lot, sure. But like, you can tell they put a lot of effort into it, and it handles really well, and it's a lot of fun to use. I will say though, the Batmobile battle with Deathstroke, I think. Yeah, where he's in a tank, and you just kind of like go around these alleys and hunt him down and shoot him in the back 3 times, like his tank, and then a cutscene triggers and you put him in jail. It was one of the most disappointing things I've ever witnessed in my entire life.
Yeah, that was super underwhelming. Oh my god!
Wow. I thought there could have at least been like a Batman Origins kind of fight, but no.
Yeah. Here's the other thing with the Batmobile too. I think the reason it doesn't work so much is because I thought the Batmobile was fine. I can definitely see arguments as to why it might be used a little too much. I think what Rocksteady was kind of going for was something similar to when going from Arkham Asylum to Arkham Knight, or not to Arkham City, sorry. In Arkham Asylum there was gliding, but it was pretty much only like going downwards. And then they kind of introduced gliding as like a mechanic where like, oh, you can use the grapple to accelerate yourself and you can go up and down and dive and everything. And they had all these different movement mechanics. So then everything in the game kind of centered around that, of like getting around to your next areas. You had to glide to over here or over here in the map. And so they introduced the Batmobile in Arkham Knight as kind of that kind of same system. But I think the two problems with that is that it's not as enjoyable as gliding around as Batman in a way. And I also think that because gliding still exists, it's not like filling in a gap that's not there. It's just kind of like an alternative.
Gliding is faster too.
That as well. You know, you're kind of, you want to glide more because it's faster. So I feel like that's kind of the problems with it, but it's still enjoyable. I think the combat parts were really, really fun to do. Sometimes very intensive.
But absolutely. No, absolutely.
Some of my highlights of the game. So I really liked Joker in this as like a hallucination. And there was this video I watched where like throughout the game you can like glide by billboards, and like sometimes Joker's face will appear instead of like, I don't know, a woman holding like a bowl or something. It'll be Joker holding a bowl. But then the game is programmed that if you look again, it'll just be a woman holding the bowl. So like it kind of plays with you, like you gotta take that double take. Did I really see that? Did I not? You kind of go crazy yourself too, which is really cool. And then also
I have this. Oh, no, go ahead.
Oh no, just like on top of that, the makeup of Joker, like when he's first introduced as a hallucination, his makeup is like as it was left off in City, like, you know, he's dead and so like in shambles basically. But then at the end of the game, it's like fully painted over again. He's got his full white face again and the big smile, which is really cool, I thought.
Yeah, for sure. I have to say, one of my favorite parts of the game was there was a couple of side quests. I mean, in particular, the Professor Pig one. Like,
Valentine?
Just seeing Professor Pig, like I never like, the one where the dude, I believe he's like surgically manipulating people to not feel pain, and you have to like fully incapacitate them. Like, and he's while you're doing the fight, he's like singing opera in the background. Like Professor Pig is awesome. Like I never thought you'd see him in a game. Like it's one of those villains like what Condiment King or Catman you'd never think to see outside of like comics or the Golden Age. Like there, I mean, this is said for a lot of Marvel and DC. Sorry, Marvel and DC heroes, where there's just such obscure or lesser known heroes and or villains that you wouldn't believe. I mean, especially with the new Suicide Squad trailer with Polka Dot. I think it's Polka Dot King. The fact that he's coming into a movie, like this stupid, like who is Polka Dot King? Nobody knows who he is. Why? And he's coming into a movie. Like, come on, that's so awesome. That's so hilarious.
My favorite character.
Oh man, yeah,
I got a tattoo of him on my chest, man.
Polka Dot King lore. The next thing, if we ever get, I think it's the unbeatable Squirrel Girl. If we ever get a Squirrel Girl Marvel, anything Squirrel Girl related on Disney Plus and or a movie, I'm done.
I know there was talk
we've
of Brie
reached
Larson
maximum
doing
obscurity.
before.
I thought it was
Captain
Anna
Marvel.
I think it was Anna Kendrick.
Or Miss Marvel. Sorry, was it? I thought it was.
I think it was
Brie
Anna
Larson. Okay,
Kendrick.
You're probably right.
Maybe it was. I thought I heard Anna Kendrick, if she was going to be in the MCU, would be the Squirrel Girl. But if she's ever in anything, I know there's cartoons, but if we ever get a live action Squirrel Girl in the MCU, I'm done. Any character is then welcome. Like we can get Devil Dinosaur.
Free reign at
We
that
need to
point.
get Devil Dinosaur in the MCU. But no, anyways, it was just super cool to see Professor Pig in the in the game, and it was a really fun fight and kind of uncomfortable too. Like you're basically fighting like civilians, and you basically are forced to completely incapacitate them because they can't feel pain and stuff. And the fact that he's just singing opera in the background is hilarious and uncomfortable. It was a great fight. All right, my last game that I brought is Republic Commando, and that's Star Wars Republic Commando by LucasArts from 2005. Where to begin with this game? You know, I'm a big Star Wars fan, and there's other than Battlefront 2, original Battlefront 2, I had never really played too many great Star Wars games. I know Jedi Knight Academy was good. I never played that game, and I played this when I was a little bit older. And Republic Commando is pretty much a Halo skin, like a Star Wars Halo skin. And you can't really go wrong with that. You know, it was a great game. It had fantastic characters. It honestly seemed like a Star Wars movie that you were watching. The writing, the characters, everything. It seemed right out of Star Wars, like right out of one of the episodes. It added to the lore from the prequels. I remember you were fighting all these droids, and you were like, these droids are easy, and then a super battle droid came in, and you shot at it for 15 minutes, and then you finally got it to half health, and then you had to shoot it for another 15 minutes. Those things were a pain in the ass to fight. It was a fantastic game. It had fantastic music, like sound design. I remember the weapons were all really cool. You had this little knife that came out of your glove, which I thought was the coolest thing when I first played it. I remember like bug guts and droid fuel would like spray onto your mask, and they had to like this little visor would come across to clean it. It was such a fun game. And the other part I loved about this game, there was some like nail biting white knuckle moments where you're just completely gripping the controller, where you got to disarm or you have to like deactivate a droid machine or a droid generator, and you have to like run up, plant a bomb on it, and it takes like 20 seconds to plant the bomb. And you have to like sit there for 20 seconds or call a crewmate up to go and disarm it. And it takes, again, like 20 seconds. So you got to protect them. There was some great moments in this game. And it was a fantastic game all around. Like, I feel like it needs a sequel, in my opinion. It 100% needs Republic Commando HD remaster from the ground up. That's one of my dream remasters, especially because LucasArts, I believe, is just coming back out. I believe is coming back. You know, they got the Indiana Jones game. I'm assuming they're getting a couple more Star Wars games. Republic Commando HD remaster would be honestly my dream remaster of all time, especially if you could play as like split screen the whole game. If you could split screen the whole game with a friend, because I think that was missing from the original, if I remember correctly. There you weren't able to split screen it. If that ever happens, that's like one of my dream remasters. This game was so much fun. It was like to play as a clone trooper and not a Jedi. It was awesome in my opinion. And to fight someone like it's hard to explain it if you haven't played this game and you're a Star Wars fan. What are you doing right now? Go play the game. I believe you can get it on easily. I'm sure you can get it on PC easily.
It's backwards compatible.
I got it myself
too.
Yep, it's backwards compatible. It's super cheap on the Xbox store. I'm not sure about PlayStation. It's very likely on there as well. Get the game, play it all the way through. It's so much fun. It's so cool. Ton of fun to play. And that's why it's quite honestly one of my favorite games. Just to move the conversation on, did you guys? I know Bart, you played the game. What's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, so I picked it up on PC at Walmart in like this triple pack where it had Battlefront 1, 2, and Republic Commando. And
okay,
I installed it on my dad's laptop, so whenever he got back from work, I would take it into my room and play Republic Commando, which was actually an awesome memory. But yeah, like you said about the visor and the guts and that little like hidden blue knife that came out of their palm.
Oh yeah,
or their knuckle, I guess.
Was awesome.
Incredible. And like right from the start, it's established that you're a clone, but you're like a little bit above them. And when you like see other clones in the battlefield, they'll kind of like greet you and they'll cheer and they'll be like invigorated with your arrival, that they're like, yes, all right, there's hope. And you feel so badass because you're like, all right, let's do this. And everybody has their thing on your team. Like you got the sniper, demolition, and I think medic, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I believe it's
and you can
medic,
like order people to like do certain things, like hold a position or like you said, defuse a bomb or arm it or something. And it's just so great. It's kind of got like that Siege, Las Vegas, I think, whatever it's called. That kind of feel to it. It's so great. And I remember, like you said about the Super Battle Droids, those things just bullet sponges beyond compare. But then Grievous's guards, they were scary. Yep. Oof, they were like very imposing foes.
My favorite part about the game is like it just shows, and this is more so this for Star Wars lore. Because I mean, you watch the prequels and the sequels, and you just see Jedi as like, oh, they're just these regular dudes. But it kind of showed how useful Jedis were in the war, like in fighting droids and stuff, because it took so long to kill a battle droid in the game. It physically proved how difficult it was for a clone trooper to fight the droids and stuff. Like they weren't just one-shot kills where the Jedi had such an easy time doing it. And I think that really adds to the Star Wars lore, in my opinion. And I thought that was a very big plus. And I believe technically this game is canon. I'm not 100 on this. I believe these characters show up in Clone Wars very, very briefly. The squad there, I can't remember what the squad's name. But Delta I believe Squad? They show up. Yeah, Delta Squad. I believe they show up very briefly in a Clone Wars episode, technically making the game canon. Other than that, no, I love the game, and I totally...
I know the Republic Commandos, not exactly like Delta Squad, but like the Commandos themselves show up in Battlefront 2, like the game, which is canon, I think. Like the new one, EA.
Okay.
So,
okay, yeah.
I think maybe they are canon? I don't know, I'll have to look into that. But yeah, also the ending, when you leave Kashyyyk. Fuck.
Yep, Kashyyyk. Yeah.
I was thinking of the Skyrim
planet.
The Skyrim cats. When you leave them and you're talking to Yoda, you got like this big cliffhanger and the game just ends. And now it's been 15 years and there's been no resolution to it.
Yeah.
And
Man,
I'm with you on this. I would love nothing more like a definitive edition or something.
Republic Commando 2, Republic Commando HD remastered. I think EA's contract with those Star Wars has recently ended, and LucasArts, I think is now back. If we can get Republic Commando 2, man.
What if that's like Ubisoft's game? their new IP. They just don't tell us.
I doubt
Yeah,
it.
I doubt it too, but
I doubt
maybe.
it. I mean, that and Star Wars 1313, I would love to see. I remember being so hyped for 1313, and then just it's gone, and it's
never seen again.
Please. Anyway, sorry, just to move on from us, Sean, what are your opinions on Republic Commando and or just any Star Wars game, pretty much, to be existed and or hopefully coming in the future?
I mean, I don't have too much to really add. I have not played Republic Commando. However, I've had tons of friends of mine that have been Star Wars fans that I've asked them, like, what are your favorite Star Wars games? And they're like, oh yeah, Republic Commando. I'm like, so I can clearly tell it's a decent game because the amount of people that I've had tell me that that's their favorite Star Wars game. I've personally been more of a Battlefront person for Star Wars games. That's probably the one I've played the most. Other than that, I mean, I don't have too much to add, I think, but that's really all I can say.
Fair.
No, for sure. Especially if you haven't played it,
it's a treat.
I feel like but it's a ton of fun, dude. It's awesome. I mean, it's the fact that, like, I feel like, in my personal opinion, there's maybe like only a couple good Star Wars games worth playing.
Mm-hmm.
Like original Star Wars game. Like Battlefront is good, Jedi Knight Academy is good, and Republic Commando is good, and Knights of the Old Republic. Other than that, I don't really know too many other Star Wars games that are like, these are fantastic games. Like, I mean, Jedi, what's the Fallen
Order?
One? The Fallen Order.
Kind of disappointing. I didn't like it.
Controversial opinion. Like you said, it's so buggy.
Oh.
It's so broken.
It's
like I
almost
find you
unplayable.
cannot play.
Mm-hmm.
Like I find that you cannot. When I played it, I find I could not play on a harder difficulty in order to proceed in the story. But I mean, the story was good. I won't lie. The story was enjoyable and fun. And again, like it felt like Star Wars. But yeah, like you said, it was just so broken. It should have been a video game first and then a story, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It shouldn't. What it felt like was story first, video game second.
Like Hunter, you and I think we just came right off of playing Sekiro. And I think we both kind of picked it up at the same time and jumped into it with like Grand Jedi Master difficulty. And you get like one shot by everything and it's unplayable. It's so difficult.
You're playing it.
But like a buggy kind of difficult, not even like, it's just cheap.
It's not tough but fair. It's tough but fuck you kind of difficulty. But I mean, love it or hate it. You're entitled to your own opinion, love it or hate it, but
it wasn't for me.
In my opinion, it wasn't for me. Yeah, like you said, Bart, it wasn't for me. Yeah. I mean, I haven't played it in a while. It's quite pop. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Sean.
I was just gonna say, I'm happy to hear that's the fact, because I tried picking it up because I'm like, oh, it looks interesting enough. It's not typically like a game that I would think to want to play, but I'm like, it looks cool. I want to play it. And it was one of like the first earlier games that like had RTX on it, and I just got like an RTX card, and I'm like, I gotta have some ray tracing. Like that's a cool thing to do. I'm like, okay, I got my reasons to buy it. I want to buy it. I think I played to maybe like 3 planets, maybe, and I was like, I hate this. I don't want to play it anymore. I'm not having fun. And I'm like, I don't know if it's because I suck or because this game is just like giving me the middle finger the whole time.
Praising it, but like I don't know. I didn't get it.
I don't know.
Like I wanted to like this game
too,
so
more
much,
than anything.
and I mean, this is just a theory that I have. I believe it was technically one of the better Star Wars games to be released in the last, maybe 5 years, that actually had Jedi combat. Like, I believe everyone was a little blind. I mean, I won't lie. I could see why people like this game. And if you look past the bugs, and if you do play on easy, it's acceptable. And I'm not saying if you like it, you're a bad person. By all means, like the game. Like who are we? We just don't like the game because we had bad experiences with it. Like the game by all means, but No, I like, that's the one thing. It's just the bugs. It was so buggy. I think it needed a couple more days in the oven, in my opinion. But end of the day, yeah, like you said, it was a bad Star Wars game. And to just kind of move ourselves back onto Republic Commando, did anybody else have any
small digression?
Any other notes on Republic Commando?
I hope we get to fight Yaddle. It's one of the bosses.
Oh my god, dude! I want Yaddle. I want Yaddle in Star Wars canon so bad. Like, I technically she is, because she was in the prequels in like a tiny scene you could see her. But I really want her in the next season of Mandalorian or something. But holy hell, like, that would be the greatest moment of my life.
What if Grogu is Yoda's and Yaddle's kid? Can you imagine?
That would be amazing. I would love that. I would legitimately cry of happiness. Anyway, just to move us along, Bart, what's the next game you have that you brought today?
Alrighty.
Or sorry, the last game
the very last today. One, kids. All right, so I got Pokemon Black and White, Generation 5. What a treat. So, I think I also started playing this grade 8, maybe just at the end of grade 7.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Grade 8.
So, kind of. I didn't really have my own console. This was also before I got the Wii, which I think I got like later in grade 8, maybe grade 9 even. Doesn't matter. But I was working at this place just part-time after school. And I saved up my hard-earned cash, $140, to pick up my very own DS, a little blue one, and I was amped about it.
Excellent.
So I bought that, and then I didn't have any games, and I didn't have any money left, so I was really sad. My mom wouldn't give me any money. So I spent like another 2 weeks just working and saving up another like $40. Well, maybe 2 weeks is a bit excessive, but you know what I mean. And then my sister had like a violin recital or something. And then I went with my mom and I snuck off and I just booked it to the mall, which was like a half hour there, half hour back in the middle of like winter to pick up Pokemon White. And yeah, so I finally got it and it was awesome. And that's like one of the things that makes it so memorable, because it's like I bought my very own console, very own game. Like, it was just...
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that Pokemon White is my favorite Pokemon game, but like it definitely one of the most memorable ones.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, it's the same for me. I think it was the first Pokemon game that I remember picking up and being my actual own Pokemon game to own, because a lot of them I was kind of given. Like Pokemon Emerald, I believe my brother gave me a copy he had. Diamond and Pearl, I think Pearl I was like given as a gift. And then White was the first one that I actually was able to purchase with my own money to like purchase and have.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that definitely has a factor into what you think of the game. So sorry, just you can continue what you were saying.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, just the game. It's kind of your typical Pokemon game. One thing that really did strike me was the story. I really liked the story, and I love how it's continued into Black and White too. I really like the character of N. And a pretty neat thing I found out about him is like he's kind of like, you know, your anti-capture and train Pokemon trainer, obviously, you know, as his character goes and as the story goes. But one neat thing is like every time you battle him, he'll usually have Pokemon like from within that area, just a little bit higher above the level. So like he just captures them, trains them a little bit, and then releases them again because it's a new team like every time you battle him. Which is really cool, actually, just because it kind of just really adds to his character, which I didn't know about until, I don't know, I saw this. I
remember it being one of the harder Pokemon games to actually beat. Like, I mean, Cynthia and Diamond and Pearl was a pain in the ass.
We'll get to Cynthia.
But I remember this game especially was super difficult because you had to beat the Elite Four, and then instead of fighting the champion, you had to go into N's castle, and then you were able to save and heal and whatnot.
You got your Zekrom or Reshiram.
You got your legendary, and then you were able to fight the final, like you were able to fight N, who was not very hard. And then that last, I can't remember his name.
Yeah, one of like
that guy,
the Elder Sages or something. Oof, he wrecked me, dude. With his
that guy.
What is it? That three-headed dragon. Hydreigon.
Yeah, Hydreigon.
And he was like, legitimately, he doesn't even evolve at that level. He was like level 59, doesn't evolve to like level 65. So he cheated.
Yeah, and literally, I remember. Okay, it's dragon type. Okay, use an ice Pokemon. Oh, it's got flamethrower. It kills you one hit. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, it literally, no matter what Pokemon you sent out, it always had a weakness. Like it had like 17 different moves to fuck you over, pretty much. Like it was such a pain in the ass.
It was like that Charizard at the end of Pokemon Sword and Shield when he's Dynamaxed, and you send out your Inteleon, and he used like Leaf Blade, and I'm like, what the hell?
What happened to Pokemon? But
anyway,
that was like I remember Pokemon Black and White being, and Pokemon Black and White 2 being extremely difficult, because that was like like I remember after that, I think EXP share, I mean, you could turn it off, but I remember it being pretty difficult at that game. Like especially if you weren't if you didn't know how to technically play the game, like, oh, you gotta level up every Pokemon individually. You can't just use your starter.
Which I tried.
That's how, believe it or not, that's how I used to play Pokemon.
Me too.
But I do remember, like, you did have to play it where you had to switch Pokemon and stuff. And the one complaint I have about Black and White is that a lot of the Pokemon had such high levels to evolve. Rufflet evolved at like level 58. Hydreigon was level 65. Bisharp was level, I think, 54. I could be wrong on these. By all means, check them. Don't take my word on it. But I remember the level cap being super, super high for some reason. And I mean, some of the Pokemon though were fucking awesome. Like it was some of the best designs that some of the best designs since but some of the best designs period. But you had to just have such a high level cap for them. But I mean, it was a good game. Black and White was definitely a great game. Any other notes on the Pokemon, on Black and White and or the Pokemon series in general?
Real quick, sorry, Sean, I don't know if you were going to say something, but Hunter, you mentioned Cynthia, and in the post game of Black and White, you can go to Undella Town and you can fight Cynthia in this little hotel or something, and she's got her godforsaken Spiritomb and Garchomp and Lucario. There's like level 85. That is one of the hardest fights in that game. It is.
The Garchomp is easy. An ice type will fuck Garchomp right the hell up. Like,
you just gotta outspeed it.
If you outspeed it with like Weavile, you can kill that thing one hit, easy town. The Spiritomb has no super effective moves against. That's what fucks you up. Is the Spirit? In my opinion, the Spiritomb is what fucked me up.
That thing is a powerhouse.
Oh man, well, it doesn't have anything that's super effective to it, so it just literally. It just is like, oh, I'm gonna just hit you with the focus beam and kill any Pokemon you have instantly. It's
for effort.
Like you said, she's a fucking beast.
And the music that plays during that battle is incredible too. I remember that. It's really good.
The music is awesome. The Pokemon music is fantastic. I mean, in every Pokemon game, it's memorable as hell, and it's all fantastic, especially in the Game Boy ones, especially Lavender Town. Apparently, if you listen to the Lavender Town theme on Pokemon Green with headphones on, you want to kill yourself. I don't know. Creepypasta. It freaked me out enough to not play the game.
Yeah, me too.
It legitimately freaked me out enough to not play the game with headphones on, believe it or not. Other than that, Sean, sorry, we're kind of interrupting you. What notes do you have on the Pokemon series? It doesn't have to be just Black and White.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have too much either on this, just because I feel like you guys pretty much said everything already, but I don't have too much from Black and White specifically, just because I think I played like a bit of White, but like I don't know, I must have like got hit by a truck and went into a coma or something, because I don't remember anything from it for some reason. I remember, I think like the last game I remember playing was Diamond and Pearl, and I mean, I don't know what else really to add on top of Pokemon. Like, Pokemon's fantastic. don't know what else to add. I enjoyed Pearl when I played it. I think I picked Piplup as a starter, and I'm pretty sure I only ever used. Yeah. I think I only ever used them on everything.
The starter powerhouse, it's like level 85.
I remember
Gym 3.
I remember in high school, there was this kid I knew, and he said he beat the entirety of the game with one Pokemon, and it was his Torterra, and I was like, no, you did not.
Isn't that impossible?
Like, well,
because you have to get through Victory Road, right? With more than 4 HMs, I thought.
Well, yeah. I think that technically, yeah, with the HMs for sure. Mm-hmm. But maybe he was using slave Pokemon that just have them for HMs, like Bidoof. But even if you hit that ice gym, man, that Torterra is legitimately ×4 weakness to that entire gym. Like you're pretty well boned that whole gym in Diamond and Pearl. Like that's where I don't buy it. That's the one point where I don't buy it. There's even an Elite Four member that specializes in fire types. I don't know. I remember that happening and me getting so frustrated that he wouldn't admit that he was lying, and just like legitimately pulling my hair out to try to convince him. But he was pretty adamant on it happening, and I mean, I didn't see him do it, which means I didn't see him not do it. So it could be true. Who knows?
May.
But no, yeah. Pokemon's great, except for Sword and Shield. But Pokemon's a great series. I love.
Sorry, I just want to add.
I love. No, go for it.
It's just a little black and white story I had. So when I did first get the game, right, I brought my DS to school all the time because like who needs to do schoolwork when you get to play Pokemon? And I had this crush. I think I told you this already, Hunter. I had this crush on this girl named Amanda, and so I started off my Pokemon adventure with the girl character. I named her Amanda, because I was like, it's not creepy.
you're just like, bro. Maybe it'll happen if it happens.
Exactly,
if she's in the game, right?
Maybe I'll like form this connection with her. But yeah, I made it to like Gym 7, and then one of my buddies saw it because he saw me playing. He's like, "What's your character's name? Amanda? Wait, Amanda? I won't say her last name." And it's like, no, just Amanda. He's like, "Oh my god, it's Amanda, whatever."
Oh.
And everybody just started like laughing and bullying me, so I deleted my entire game file and started all over again.
Oh my goodness! Woof. That's so sad.
What a rough time.
That's so sad. That sucks.
Kind of freaking funny.
Anyways, I mean, Pokemon's been a pretty it's been a pretty main stake in my life. I mean, it was one of the first games I kind of was introduced to video games. It was like Pokemon Emerald was the first video game I'm pretty sure I ever played, and just like Pokemon's been a pretty staple in my life. It's been a pretty mainstay in my life the entirety. And that's why I agree with you, Bart. Why it would be one of your favorite games. And I agree with, especially Pokemon Black, especially for the reasons like it was one of the standout games, as if like one of the bigger games of Pokemon. It had its own 150 new Pokemon and stuff like that. So I agree with you on that.
I think we're on to Sean's last game.
Oh yeah, for sure. So so if we don't have any last notes on Pokemon, then Sean, what's your last game that you brought today?
Yeah, kind of a weird one, I guess, to be my last game, but it's my most recent game to be put on my favorite games list. It's not my most favorite game ever, but it's part of the list there, and I think it's definitely quite controversial, but that is Death Stranding.
100%.
For those who don't know it, it's a game by Hideo Kojima. It's his first game away from Konami, at his own studio, and it has big stars in it like Norman Reedus, Mads Mikkelsen, Leo Seydoux, I don't know,
Guillermo del Toro.
Guillermo del Toro,
and Monster Energy drinks.
And Monster Energy drinks, yeah.
Monster Energy drinks, yeah. Don't forget that. And AMC, the channel.
Incredible.
They have it on every time you go to the bathroom. They have AMC.
Oh yeah.
Norman Reedus's Ride or something.
Yeah, Ride with Norman Reedus.
Yeah,
Yep.
and it's like him smiling with Godzilla on the back of a motorcycle is the funniest thing ever.
Oh my god! I mean, all that aside, even though that's obviously the best part of the game, no, it's a game that a lot of people. This game wasn't like really showing off a lot of gameplay. It was showing off a lot of story initially when it was revealed for the first time, and it was really cryptic. And I think that was really cool because it got a lot of people like kind of like curious what this game was about. But it kept that going on for a really long time during its promotional material for the game when it was, coming out with new trailers. And it ended up kind of getting this whole idea around it from a lot of people, like, oh, it's really mysterious. What's it going to be? It's going to be like Kojima's best work, or it's going to be like a Metal Gear Solid 2.0. Like, it's going to be the best thing ever because Konami isn't holding him back. And it wasn't that at all, really. It has elements of that, but Kojima kept kind of, and people made memes of this too, where he was, saying how this is like a new genre of game. It's a Strand game. And, here's the thing. While that sounds super stupid in a way, in my opinion, it just sounds ridiculous to say that. It's not completely wrong to say it's like kind of a new genre, because it's not so much, I don't know if I'd say it's a new genre, but it's a different kind of focus on existing genres that make it feel very different from things that already exist. Because I don't know about you guys, but if I think of a genre for this game, there's like different pieces from a bunch of different genres, but I couldn't ever like pinpoint it as one thing.
Yeah.
And
yeah, for sure.
I think the other thing too is a lot of people were really hoping that this game was going to be like, your kind of fast-paced kind of combat game, again akin to Metal Gear Solid and stuff like that. And obviously that makes sense since it's Kojima still. But it's a game that I've seen people trash on because they're like trying to go quickly through it and trying to do all the combat stuff, or like take a vehicle through like really rocky terrain and be like, this sucks, this isn't fun, like nothing's happening, or like this just controls like janky. And I mean, the vehicles are a little jank, but whatever. It's a game where I can understand people not having fun with it, but the reason it's fun to me, it's not even traditionally fun, really. And I know that sounds weird, but a lot of games have that kind of like thing where the process of going through something, there's little fun moments throughout it. For Death Stranding, I find that because the main focus of Death Stranding is to go from point A to point B and bring packages in the best condition possible to the destination in the best condition, and try to get through this really rocky terrain. And the fun of that is not so much what happens in between, because that part's really stressful. Typically there's lots of hazards on your way, but the fun part is getting through all that and getting the fulfillment at the end, getting there as successfully as you possibly could and getting through all that.
Oh yeah. And
that's like a really different experience. And when I played it for the first time, I was like, I was initially expecting it to be very different from anything I played before, just because of Kojima talking about it that way. But I didn't know how different it was going to be. And I was like, I don't know, it's caught my interest. I enjoy the game. I kind of see the gameplay loop.
Yeah, for sure.
But I can also see why people wouldn't enjoy it. And so,
yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
I remember, this is kind of like, to get a bit personal, but I remember this was like one of the first games I remember me and you actually like talking a lot about.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I remember we were we kind of chatted a little bit here and there in school, but I remember like this was the first game you played it. Like, you were the only other person I knew in our school that played this game. Like, and I remember, just kind of to get a little more, like, I remember I pre-ordered this game as soon as pre-orders were available on the PlayStation Store.
Yep, same.
And I was like, as soon as the game got released, I remember my one buddy, he was like, "Oh man, I heard the game wasn't as good as people thought. Like, there's a lot of mixed reviews," and I was like really tempted to cancel the pre-order, but I thought I'm gonna trust Kojima. I'm gonna put my trust in it. And I honestly, I wasn't disappointed by this game by no means. There was a couple times where I was like, not as good as I thought it would be, but I was never disappointed by it. Like you said, it's a delivery game. Like you're basically doing fetch quests the whole time, but I find it to be kind of relaxing, especially if you know the route you're going to take.
Mm-hmm.
You can just kind of go cruise along, easy, relax, kind of like chill out. It's something to do. You're not just sitting there on your phone, doing whatever you do on your phone. You're just kind of watching, looking at the scenery and stuff. And then other times, it's the most stressful thing. You're like, please God, make this end. I need a hand. Somebody help me. It's super stressful at times, and it's super relaxing at times. That's the one thing I liked about the game.
Mm-hmm.
The other part I love the online, how every player can leave stuff and every player can kind of interact with that stuff. Like if I build a bridge and other players can use that bridge and stuff. I found that really cool and super fun and interactive. The other thing I remember just because this game, I remember the release date when I got to play this game was the day it was announced. We had classes all day. And I was like, oh man, I'm going to have to stay up till midnight and wake up at like 7.
Yeah.
But like, I'm going to have to wake up at midnight, play the game at midnight for a bit, and then wake up at 7 the next morning. And for some reason, I was like, oh man, Kojima doesn't have super long cutscenes in the game. And the opening cutscene is like 45 minutes. And I'm sitting there like, Can I play the game yet? And I'm just like, please God, I have class in the morning. And I was just sitting there playing this game until like 3 a.m, trying to and then I remember that whole day, and then I finally get to play it at night for like a little bit, and then the next day we had to wake up at like 6 to film. I think it was a football game, I can't remember, so I never got to play the game until super like late the day after it was released. But I do definitely remember that. That was another reason. But I do see your reasons. Like, also, it's just fun to kind of prepare yourself, like what tools you might need for the journey ahead for your delivery. Like, oh, do I need this? Is a player going to leave it for me? You never know. It's super fun. I do agree with you. It is definitely a better game than I think people claim it out to be. But if it's not your type of thing, I understand as well. I definitely do agree with your opinions on that.
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry. I, for one, have not played it. I've heard plenty about it, though. I've heard that it is the walking simulator of 2019. I've heard lots of other things. But one of the cool things that I did, like I kind of did some research on it, whatnot. Like I've seen like playthroughs to an extent, trailers, whatnot. And one of the things that always kind of came up a positive was what you were saying about like the online interconnectivity, where like the more you explore, like you can help other people with like likes and positive reinforcement so that they'll put down more things. They help you out, you help them out, and together you kind of civilize to an extent this place to make transportation easier and whatnot. I think that's a really cool dynamic, because I know that Kojima's...
Oh, yeah.
Kojima? Yes. His focus was kind of on like trying to move towards the positivity of social media and kind of stray away from like the negative aspects of it. So there's not like a dislike button on like a bridge or something. You can only like it or not like it.
No, yeah. Yep.
So, and yeah, it's just cool how that was implemented in such a practical way that you can kind of build your world together. It's neat. But no, I haven't played it yet. I may still, because it just seems like an experience that you kind of have to play for yourself. Because like I've heard about wonky controls, but I don't know to what extent. Because I know you're supposed to balance your character with like the triggers and whatnot, but I don't think that you can understand that unless you play it yourself. So
that can be a bit annoying at times, but honestly, like I personally didn't have much where I was kind of frustrated at the controls. Like I didn't have too many opportunities where I was like, oh my God, the controls suck. Like I never had that moment, but there was definitely I never had that moment with the controls. I mean, maybe if you're used to another like how another game controls, maybe, but me personally, I didn't have that. There's a couple of times where you're trying to jump a bike or move a bike somewhere where it's not where it might not be the right terrain, but personally, I never had that moment where I was frustrated with the controls at all.
Yeah, I mean, like, for the most part, the controls are kind of like, it's the first game I can really remember in a long time where using a controller, I've had to, like, be careful with the movements. Like, I'm walking over here, I have to move the stick, like, only a tad bit forward, because going any faster than this, I'm gonna fall over. Like, or I have to balance specifically this way because I'm going down an angled hill to my right. I gotta put more balance on my one side so I don't fall. And I've never seen a game that's put that much emphasis on movement and balance, at least in this kind of environment. Maybe like a WarioWare game has more, but it's I don't know, that part really interested me too. And it's funny too because I think one problem too with this game is that there's a lot that's not communicated super well to the player. And part of that makes it kind of interesting because there's kind of that like self-discovery of like figuring out what certain things mean. But there's a lot of menus with a lot of little details on it that like some is not important at all and some is like super important. And there's not a clear distinction between that. I didn't discover until later that on the screen where before you go out to deliver the cargo you have the option of like putting it on your backpack or putting it on like your arm or wherever you can put it to kind of balance it all. And there's like, I mean, for the most part, by the package size, you can kind of figure out like what's balanced for like center of gravity and stuff. And based on like Norman Reedus's animations and stuff, you can kind of tell if you're unbalanced or balanced. But there's like a little circle under him that like shows your center of gravity in that menu. And I never noticed that until somebody said it after I'd platinumed the game on PS4. I'm like, oh, okay, sure, yeah. I mean, I kind of got a feel for it, but.
And like knowing Hideo Kojima, there's a ton of hidden what do you call them? Not menus. Blanking on the word. A ton of just hidden commands mechanics. That's the word I'm thinking of. A ton of hidden command mechanics that he doesn't really state in the game. Like I didn't know you could slide down the ladders by hitting square until like after I've beaten the game pretty much.
Yep.
But no, it's definitely not a game for everybody. I do agree with that, but I don't think it's not a game where it should be just hated on because it's walking simulator the game. It's definitely a game I feel like research it. If it might be your thing, give it a shot. If you know you're not going to like it, maybe you won't like it. It's one of those kind of games, I would say for sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right, any closing arguments on Death Stranding?
That is it for me.
All right. Any closing statements on any of the other games we have talked about today?
R.I.P. Christopher Plummer. That's all.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Rest in peace. All right, guys. I'd like to thank everybody for listening to today's episode of EchoVideo Podcast. I'd like to thank Shawn and Bart for joining me again. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
And join us next week. Next week, we're talking about our favorite monkey movies. So that's movies with a monkey as a main character and or is involved in the film somehow. So join us next week. We're going to have hopefully a lot of fun with that. I believe Bradley's going to be joining us again. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.